Hi there guys, welcome back to another video on Rancor Reptiles. Today I am greeted with Papaya here. Today we're going to be talking about one of the cornerstone morphs and ball pythons. I like clown ball pythons. I like desert ghosts. The particular recessive we're going to be going over is Pied. I don't have Pied in my collection, and it's simply because I don't like it too much. Pied, however, is one of the cornerstone morphs in the ball python community, period. What clown is to me, Pied is to a lot of people. Pied is a very beautiful morph that has, well, that it's basically has the most impact by itself without mixing any other combos into it. We managed to get a hold of Pieds. There was actually a couple of visual recessives found in the wild, and those were sold to a particular private collector in Miami, sometimes during the 80s. I think the particular animals were sold for around $5,000 to $10,000 per animal. This private collector then sold off some of those Pieds to another breeder by the name of Peter Cal from Peter Cal Reptiles, and Cal Reptiles really did start up the Pied project and got those animals pushed out into market. Now, like I said before, the main draw from Pied morphs is that they look amazing without mixing any combos into it. Of course, you can mix combos into Pied and have really nice effect. However, I believe clowns are the king of combos. However, the Pied is the king of impact by itself. Pied has probably one of the biggest impact visually from its morph than any other recessive that I probably know of. Now, let's go into some of the combinations that Pied produces that are truly awe-inspiring. A lot of these pictures were taken from Canova, because their Canova is one of the, or just think about or is one of the companies or breeders that are on the bleeding edge of a lot of these morphs, and I think they do the Pied gene quite justice. So let's go over some of their animals. So first here is an Enchi yellow belly hurricane Pied. This is a very low white Pied. Some people like very low white, some people like very high white, because I like seeing the coloration and different patterns. I like low whites. However, I like the fact that there's some really nice white pieding going on in this snake. Enchi and Pied tends to bring out a lot of pattern, tends to give some low whites. And I think that Hurricane does, the same. Since Hurricane is a pattern jumbler, I think that Hurricane does produce that type of effect. Of course, Yellow Belly and Pied helps produce, give a little more yellow to the sides of the saddles. If you can see right where the tail is, right on that Pied banding, there's really nice oranges going on there. So overall, Yellow Belly and Pied is a popular combination, and I think this particular combination is really nice. I think this particular animal reminds me of a sunset, just from sunsets being a little darker brown. I think this snake looks a lot lighter, particularly like this combination a little more. Next up is an Orange Dream Yellow Belly Desert Ghost Pied. This is a double recessive, Pied and Desert Ghost. Desert Ghost and Pied, I think, work very well together. It helps the animal from losing a lot of its color, and so I think that the yellow and orange saddles produced by the Yellow Belly Orange Dream will actually retain a lot of their coloration thanks to the Desert Ghost. This is one of those cutting edge morphs that I was talking about, because it's really hard to land that double recessive. Of course, I would like to see Enchi added into this to see a little more pattern. That's just me. However, just by itself, I think this animal looks fantastic. If you like medium white pieds, I think this is pretty impressive and probably what you would be on the market for. Of course, this particular animal would be fairly high priced on the market. Alright, next up is the Freeway Clown Pied. I love clown, I can't say it enough. Clowns are the best for me. And here you see another double recessive with the clown and the pied. Clown and pied really don't react, destructively, and they don't have any type of synergy. Clown pieds, it's basically a pied ball python with a clown head. The pattern really doesn't get too jumbled up to too much. And Freeway is basically yellow belly and asphalt. So yellow belly, yellow belly in this particular animal produces a lot of pixelation on the bottom of the saddles, the bottom of the color bands, and asphalt is really hard to pick out. I think that they were able to distinguish that this was a Freeway simply because of the pattern on the dorsal stripe. Now this particular picture was the best one I could find showing it off. However, you can see there's a lot of pixelation along the dorsal. So I'm thinking that's how they found that settled that this animal was a Freeway. Of course, the clown is fairly obvious because of the clown head and the pied. Fairly obvious. Freeway a little harder to spot out though. I think this animal you'd really have to breed it out and prove it out. However, it looks spectacular nonetheless. Next up is an Enchi Special Pied. Now, like I said before, Enchi and Pied bring out a lot more color. They bring out a lot more pattern saddles along the snake's body. However, Special really tends to bring in more white. So you have two different codoms that do very different things in Pied. Special being high white, Enchi being low white. And as you can see here, it really Special does tend to win out in this particular animal. The thing I like about this so much is that the head really got that splash of Special. Special, I think, being a little overpowering in this combination. Really, just gave that animal like this white duck beak. It looks absolutely fantastic. I know that Kubelka is working a lot with the Special Pieds. And I think that adding Enchi to Special is a great move, because otherwise Special Pieds might be, like 90% white. I like to see some color variation, I like to see some spotting, so I think the Enchi really would go well with Special and the recessive pied. Next up is an Enchi Cinnamon Pied Albino, another double recessive. Albinism, basically sucking out all of the dark pigmentation, and pied. Enchi bringing in a more pattern, and Cinnamon bringing in darker coloration. I think this is one of those. I think this is one of the first double recessives that were produced, because albino has been a very popular gene since almost the inception of ball pythons. And pied being one of the most cutting edge and one of the older morphs, I think these albino pieds were, like I said, the first double recessives to be produced. I think that this combination looks pretty good. I would, like I said, like more pattern. However, I like to see more contrast as well. I like to see vivid oranges or yellows, or even very dark blacks on my pieds. So having this muted orange and muted colors really isn't my style. Of course, some people really like albino pieds, however, really isn't my jam. Maybe instead of adding cinnamon, I would probably like black pastel more, because black pastel albinos look fantastic. And I would really like to see that here. Alright, next up is a Super Orange Dream Pied. Now, Orange Dream in general really doesn't have an effect on how much pattern is on a Pied. And I believe that the Super Orange Dream really doesn't have an effect either. I think that in this particular animal, there is just a chance of it being low white. However, the Super Orange Dream really did its job. Super Orange Dream really does tend to like Anchi take away from pattern, making the alien heads more simple, more melted together. And Pied, in this particular animal, it did exactly that. It looks like there's like a saddle on top of a saddle for the pattern. I think this particular animal looks fantastic. I of course would like to see a little more white in this particular animal, or maybe you can add things like fire. Desert Ghost would look spectacular with this combination. Maybe you see there's like a little bit of brown rustiness on the dorsal of this snake. I think the Desert Ghost would clean that up and give this snake a very nice, clean, polished finish. Next up is Pied Sunset. Sunset is one of those new recessives that are barely coming out, so they demand a high price. When you add Pied to that, you have this fantastic looking snake. Now, I particularly don't like sunsets. They are, I think, just brown snakes. They can do, they need more. I like color. Either it being dark, very dark, or very light. If it's gonna be a brown snake, I want to see, some, bands of different colors or different gradients that helps produce like greater contrast. Sunsets don't have that. Sunsets, I think, are just brown snakes. Crucify me for it. However, I'm really not interested in the sunset gene. However, when you add it to Pied, it adds exactly what it's missing, and that is contrast. I see those white bands coming up from the sides. I think that is exactly what the sunset needs. Now, I need something a little more to enhance the pattern on the color saddles. So I think Spot Nose would do a great job of that. Maybe something even like Pinstripe might work. GHI, something to add more pattern on the saddles. Because even though there's great contrast here between the Sunset and the Pied, I want to see a little more pattern, I want to see a little more movement from my double recessive. Sunset being on the cutting edge, it's not very cheap, so this would be a very expensive combination to have, and I quite frankly don't see it being worth that much. Next is a Desert Ghost Clown Pied. This is a triple recessive. This is probably one of the hardest things to hit. This is on the bleeding edge. Again, this is from Canova, Justin Kabilka. It is really hard to hit a double recessive, and now you're bringing a third recessive into this, right? So this is a clown by its signature clown head, Pied from its very obvious pattern. However, it's also Desert Ghost, and it's Desert Ghost because it has a very nicer, less rusty finish on the color saddles. So I think that this particular animal is an absolute genetic powerhouse, right? I quite frankly don't really agree with this combination though. This would be a great breeder, however, I think it would end at that. I like my Desert Ghost Clowns, and I like my Desert Ghost Pieds. Quite frankly, there needs to be a lot more pattern. Maybe add Enchi into this to really start showing off the Desert Ghost, because otherwise, I think it's a wasted recessive in this combination if you don't have more pattern to show it off. Which is one of the reasons why I particularly don't like Pieds. Because the more pronounced Pied is in a combination, the more it takes away from all the other genes in that combo. So if I'm gonna have a pied, I'm probably just going to have a very simple one codom, pied. So it's not gonna be anything complicated. If, and that's a big if, I get one. I already have Desert Ghost and Con in my collection, and I'm not really looking into getting into another recessive anytime soon. Of course, there are several other different recessives I'm putting my eye on that I've made videos on. However, that's, like I said, not for anytime soon. Next up is a super blackhead pied. Now, this particular animal, I think, is called a Panda Pie. Panda Pies are basically all black coloration on a pied snake. Usually Panda Pies are high white, low color. However, the color they do have is all black. So they are very nice to look at. They're really hard to produce because you have a recessive with a double codom, and so it's hard to hit. However, this animal carries an air of controversy around it because the super blackhead carries a higher probability of deformations in offspring. So not from the super blackhead when you're trying to produce a super blackhead. Super blackheads at birth or while they're developing in the embryo have a higher chance of getting deformed, like spine kinking, shark bite, stuff like that. Not very nice things. So they carry. Not many people really try to produce them simply because they don't want to risk producing disfigured animals, right? Again, it's like with a whole spider complex thing. Super blackhead pieds are, kind of looked down upon. I know that Justin Kabelka and other breeders are looking for ways to not use super blackhead and pie to produce all black and white snakes. However, that's still in development, right? So overall, this particular animal has some brown to it. However, it's, still a pretty nice looking snake. Very nice contrast between the white and the black. I can see why people would want these guys so much. Alright, and that basically marks the end of pied. If you have any other pied combinations that you really like, leave them down below. Maybe even link the breeder that produced them. It's always nice to, look at these combinations and see what's on the bleeding edge. If you're a breeder and you're looking at some of these combinations and you're like, oh man, I'm really far behind, don't sweat it. Everybody's marching at their own pace. Just because some breeder is producing these cutting edge things doesn't mean he's able to produce enough to supply the whole industry, right? This is a very big industry. There's more than enough space for everybody. As long as you're working to get there, you will eventually find yourself in a good spot. Alright, so this has been Rancor Reptiles and Papaya. If you have any comments, leave them down below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thanks for coming by and listening to me. As always, I'll catch you in the next vid. Thanks, guys.